Well, that was fucking bad. Now we are going to go ahead and ignore this intro. It was originally supposed to be the intro to Last Week I Watched number 14, but it quickly became a whole video of its own. I started off the week with SCOOB, the newest Scooby-Doo movie from Warner Brothers and Hanna-Barbera. And, it was not good. It was not good. It was not entertaining. It was not Scooby-Doo. So, I am a big fan of Scooby-Doo. I grew up with Scooby-Doo, as we all did. Premiering in 1969, Scooby-Doo has had multiple iterations over the many decades it has been around. And this one is probably the worst. One of the worst. I mean, there are those live-action Cartoon Network Scooby-Doo movies, but it just doesn't feel like Scooby-Doo. Plain and simply, this was a jump-off point for Warner Brothers and Hanna-Barbera to start their Hanna-Barbera cinematic universe, which I would be totally on board for if they were not so incredibly out of touch and out of sync with their audience. This movie is full of like 2010s to 2020 memes and references that are just cringy. Like the Blue Falcon, played by the extraordinary Mark Wahlberg, dabs. He fucking dabs! I just do not get why movie studios feel like they need to be hip and they need to be in touch and they need to give these sweet Vine TikTok references to their audience. No, you don't. It dates your movie. You're not being cool. You're not being funny. It solidifies the fact that you have no fucking idea how to make entertainment for kids anymore. The same thing in Avengers Endgame. I think that movie's phenomenal. But the Hulk dabs. Thor or Korg plays Fortnite. It's like, these don't need to be in here. They don't make the story any better. It doesn't make it any more relatable. It kind of just it creates this distancing within the audience. Like for me, like I love a good TikTok, but I don't want to go watch Scoob and see them dabbing. No, I want to see them solving mysteries, chasing ghosts, unmasking the librarian. That's what I want to see. But in this movie, you get a brand new cast that doesn't work well together. Like Will Forte, Amanda Seyfried, Zac Efron. I can't remember the person who played Velma. And then, thank fucking Christ, they had the brains to cast, or to keep Frank Welker on to play Scooby-Doo. Frank Welker, if you don't know, is a voice actor who has been playing the role of Fred Jones since the inception of the show, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, in 1969. He has played every iteration, or at least the majority of iterations of Fred and everything. And then after one of the voice actors, I believe the voice actor for Scooby-Doo passed away, he took on the role 20 plus years ago. And he's fucking incredible. And it's hard to replace Scooby-Doo, so they kept him on there. But the voice cast, they didn't feel like Velma and Daphne and Shaggy and Velma. They just didn't. And Fred. They didn't feel like those characters. They didn't feel like Mr. Ink. They felt disconnected. They didn't mesh well together. There's a camaraderie that is made over years and years of playing these characters in animation and video games and in TV and movies, whatever it might be. And they broke that apart. Matthew Lillard has been playing Shaggy since he did the live action Scooby-Doo, and he has done phenomenally. I mean, there's a scene in this movie that I thought was very actually heartwarming. It's when Shaggy is flipping through his smartphone trying to find a song to listen to on his walk, and behind him is a sign that says Casey's Restaurant or Casey's something. And if you don't know, Casey Kasem, who was a very notable radio personality, was the voice of Shaggy for many, many years. And there's been a few voice actors like Billy West, who was the voice of Fry from Futurama, who took over the role for a small amount of time. But Matthew Lillard, at least for me, has been the voice of Shaggy my entire life. And Will Forte just didn't capture that. Zac Efron didn't capture Frank Welker's Fred. Wow, Frank Welker's Fred. And I think the most what the fuck's her name? Velma was recently recasted a couple of years ago, but even her voice really meshes well with the character, and it didn't feel like that big of a stretch. But a lot of these voices a lot of these actors they chose for this movie, it just doesn't feel like the character. And also, the fucking Mystery Machine. The Mystery Machine in this movie, at the end, becomes a fucking, like, smart car. Like, what the shit? I love Scooby-Doo. And watching this movie, I was just like, man, they don't get it. They didn't get it. They didn't hit the mark. There's another reference I saw, too. There's quite a few, actually. But there's one where Shaggy and Scooby are in an arcade, and they're playing whack-a-mole with these scorpion robot bowling pins. And there's a poster in the background that has the Hex Girls on it. And I believe there's also a pinball machine with the Hex Girls, who were amazing in their appearances throughout the years. But yeah, I feel like this wasn't Scooby-Doo. And even Marky Mark couldn't save it. So if you couldn't tell already, I'm not going to give Scoob a good rating. Scoob is 2 out of 5 stars. I wouldn't recommend it, and honestly, don't even show it to your fucking kids. Like.